Welcome, and thank you for your interest in historic tax credits. I'm your host, Hannah Garman. We are the Alabama Historical Commission. We are the State Historic Preservation Office, and we are charged to protect, preserve, and interpret Alabama's historic places. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the federal and state historic preservation tax credits. These are available for rehabilitating historic buildings in Alabama. These tax credits help defray the cost of adaptive use projects while ensuring the historic buildings are rehabilitated according to preservation guidelines. Property owners can apply for both federal and state tax credits for income-producing historic properties. Historic tax credits encourage private investment in our historic communities, generate jobs and tax revenue, and stimulate additional revitalization efforts. The Federal Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program provides a 20% tax credit for historic buildings. The tax credits can be used to offset income taxes owed to the federal government and are taken ratably over a 5-year period. This program is available to income-producing properties that are listed in the National Register. Projects must be substantial, which means that the eligible rehab expenditures exceed the greater of the cost of the building or $5,000. Work must follow historic preservation guidelines. The applicant must go through an application process with the Alabama Historical Commission and the National Park Service to get the project approved. The Alabama Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program provides a 25% tax credit for historic buildings. Tax credits can be used to offset income taxes owed to the state of Alabama, and any excess credits are refunded. This program is available to commercial properties that are at least 60 years old and listed in the National Register or eligible for listing in the National Register. Eligible project expenditures must exceed 50% of the purchase price or $25,000, whichever is greater, and work must follow historic preservation guidelines. The applicant must initiate the application process with the Alabama Historical Commission before the start of the project, and all work must be approved. There is no limit to the amount of tax credits earned through the federal program. The federal application process is ongoing throughout the year, and applications are submitted to the Alabama Historical Commission before work begins on the project. For the Alabama tax credit, the Commission has $20 million in tax credit to award to projects each year from 2018 through 2027. For the first 9 months of each calendar year, 40% or $8 million of the $20 million is set aside for projects located in counties with less than 175,000 people. After 9 months, any remaining credits are available to projects anywhere in the state. Tax credits are capped at $5 million for commercial projects. The Alabama Historical Commission reviews applications on a quarterly basis and ensures completeness and general qualifications. Then all qualifying projects are presented to the Historic Tax Credit Evaluating Committee. The federal program has a 3-part application process where the first 2 parts are submitted prior to the beginning of the project. The final part is submitted after the project is complete. The Part 1 application is used to confirm that the property is historic. In addition to the application narrative, photographs of the existing condition of the building, keyed to plans, and a location map are required. The Part 2 application is used to ensure that proposed work follows historic preservation guidelines, which are called the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. A detailed description of all work to be performed on the property and architectural drawings of the existing condition and proposed work are required. The Part 3 application is submitted after all work is complete and requires photos of the finished project. 2 sets of the federal application and materials must be submitted to the Alabama Historical Commission. The Commission processes these applications to the National Park Service, who reviews and issues their decision. The Alabama program has a similar 3-part application process with few additional requirements. In addition to the project description, Part B includes criteria questions regarding the economic and community impact the project will have, other sources of funding, and a summary of the rehabilitation plan. The evaluating committee meets quarterly and ranks all qualified projects in order to most effectively utilize these tax credits in a way that positively impacts the state and its economy. In addition to photographs documenting the finished project, Part C includes a cost and expense certification and a post-rehabilitation appraisal of the property. During a project, applicants must meet benchmarks for spending and be complete within 60 months of notification of the tax credit reservation. The Alabama Historical Commission is pleased to share the following historic tax credit projects. House School in Dothan was constructed in 1902 and rehabilitated in 2019 using federal and state historic preservation tax incentives. The Slauson Con Building in Montgomery was constructed in 1907 for commercial and warehouse use and rehabilitated in 2019 using federal and state historic preservation tax incentives. The Firm Bank Apartment Building in Mobile was constructed in 1927 and rehabilitated in 2021 using federal and state historic preservation tax incentives. This house in the Norwood Historic District of Birmingham was constructed in 1920 and rehabilitated in 2021 using federal and state historic preservation tax incentives. Information about these historic preservation tax credit programs is available on the Alabama Historical Commission website. Technical information on how to carry out rehabilitation work that meets the required historic preservation guidelines is available on the National Park Service website. If you have questions about the federal or state historic preservation tax incentives, please contact Chloe Mercer about the federal program and contact Hannah Garman regarding the Alabama program.